You were saying that the two influences to be countered in your younger days in Vienna were Marxism and psychoanalysis. And I know in the Hobhouse lecture you also spend a good deal of time talking about the baneful influence of Freud and his ideas. Perhaps you'd develop that a little bit.
Well, it's so difficult to generalize about Freud. He was undoubtedly a very intelligent and observant man. But I think his basic idea of the harmful effect of repressions just disregards that our civilization is based on repressions. And while he himself, as I point out in that lecture, became later rather alarmed by the exaggeration of these ideas by his pupils, I think he is ultimately responsible for the modern trend in education, which amounts to an attempt to completely free people from habitual restraints. After all, our whole moral world consists of restraints of this sort, and he has in that way become what I like to call the scientific destructions of values which are indispensable for civilization, but the function of which we do not understand, which we have observed merely because they were tradition. And that creates a new task, which should be unnecessary, to explain why these values are good.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's tie it back to our other question. Given this reading of the history of the last century, and given this destruction of these moral values, which we did not really understand why we hold, how can we expect something analogous to that to be restored? Or how can we hope that it can be restored?
Well, I wish I knew. I think my present concern is to make people see the error. But that's an intellectual task, and how you can undo this effect. Well, I have an idea. The thing is, on the whole, effective via the effect on the teaching profession. And probably that generation which has been brought up during the last 30 years is a lost generation from that point of view. But I don't think it's hopeless that we might train another generation of teachers who do not hold these views, who again return to the rather traditional conception that honesty and similar things are the governing conceptions. And if you persuade the teaching profession, I think you will get a new generation brought up in quite a different view. So again, as I always come back to, the whole thing turns on the activities of those intellectuals whom I call the second-hand dealers in opinion, who determine what people think in the long run. And if you can persuade them, you ultimately reach the masses of the people.
And you don't see a necessity for something like a religion or a return to religion to instill these moral principles?
Well, it depends so much what one means by religion. You might call every belief in moral principles which are not rationally justified in religious belief. In that wide sense, yes, one has to be religious. Whether it really needs to be associated with a belief in supernatural, spiritual forces, I'm not sure. It may be. It's by no means impossible that for the great majority of people, nothing like such a belief will do. But after all, we had a great classical civilization in which religion in that sense was really very unimportant. In Greece, at the height of its spirit, they had certain traditional beliefs, but they didn't take them very seriously. I don't think their morals were determined by religion.